Hi, and welcome back, everybody. Sometimes my friends are far away, and I have to do the new technology, which is Zoom, and I schmooze with people, whether it's here in the States, in New York, in Europe, in Israel. But this time, my friend, although we're on Zoom, actually is also my neighbor, which is so convenient. We can see each other as we walk. We take walks in the evening. We don't get too close. We can't physically, embrace, but we are neighbors, and it's so delightful to introduce to you my neighbor, Barbara Minkus. And Barbara, let me tell you just a little bit about Barbara. What the cliff notes, and then we'll talk a little more. She was born in Los Angeles. She's an Angelino, which is, pretty great. And she's an actress, a casting director. She's known for so many things like Pac-Man, Love American Style, The Killing at Outpost Zeta. But I know Barbara from her work on stage, and we'll talk about that. So, Barbara, thanks for joining me. How are you, my love?
Well, it's so great. I, Listen, this is great. And you see in the background, this is the real life because now we have not much to do. So
Right.
I'm redoing the house.
And
So there's all the new colors, everybody.
we are
Uh,
literally down the block from each other.
I know. Don't go away. I have to fix one thing. See,
Gotta fix one thing. Everything's looks great.
thanks. All right.
What did you fix?
I fixed a pillow.
The pillow.
This is fun. All right. So I got to make a little disclaimer.
A disclaimer. Okay, go
A
ahead.
few disclaimers.
Okay.
Number one, I was born in Chicago.
You know what? IMDb says you were born in Los Angeles.
I'm thrilled, but I was born in Chicago, and there's a story about that. In a
Okay.
minute, I'll tell you.
Okay.
And number two, there was one other thing. Casting director, that's a funny story. And Outpost Veda is another funny story. I got a lot of funny stories.
That's what we're here for. Let's funny stories.
I was doing a show called Curiosity Shop where I played Giddle the Witch. It was a wonderful children's Saturday morning show that Chuck Jones produced. It was before its time, a multimedia, and I'll send you a clip from Curiosity Shop as Giddle the Witch. And it was so much fun. And the producers decided that they wanted to do 10 science fiction movies. And they asked me if I could recommend friends because I'm notorious. Let me turn off my phone. I'm notorious for networking, right? Notorious. So I said, I would love to help you do this, but I don't want it to be known that, Barbara Minkus is doing this. I'll be Barbara Barron, which is my married name. I said, I'll help you. 10 shows, it's going to be so much fun. And I'll call in my friends and imagine their faces when they see it's me. So Arnie and I had just gotten married. We were married for about 4 years then, 3 or 4 years. And there I am doing 10 shows with Anne Spielberg.
Annie.
You know Annie? My Annie, whose
Annie.
mother owned that wonderful restaurant on Pico.
Of course.
The Milky Way. So Anne Spielberg is the executive casting director, and I'm working under her, Barbara Barron. I had so much fun, and they were looking for this one part that they couldn't find, and I said, I would love it if my husband could play this part. Now, my husband is an ophthalmologist. Doesn't care about showbiz one bit, except he enjoys watching me sing. I'm sure your wife is the same way.
Absolutely.
So, Outpost Zeta, starring Arnie Barron, and he had 5 words. Yes, sir. No, sir. Okay, sir. Yes, sir. And the director had so much fun redirecting him with these, yes, sir, no, sir, okay, sir, we're ready, sir. And so that's the joke about Outpost. My husband, the science film star.
Do you have a copy of that so we
I think it's on I think it's on YouTube. I mean, if you go look the killing of Posada. Arnie is there as the one of the people that is looking, on board, looking to help run the spaceship to leave Earth.
Yeah,
the
but
command center.
if I put that up, Arnie will never talk to me again. So
No, don't put it up. That's why I had to tell you the story. That was the beginning and the end of my husband's showbiz career. Thank God.
Lucky for him. So if that's
And
the case, let's go back. And you were born in Chicago. You're from Chicago. And how
Right.
did you start, in our wonderful business as a child? Were you a child actress?
My grandmother was Florence Ziegfeld's rehearsal pianist in Chicago at the Chicago Musical Academy. And my mother was a professional singer. She had a great voice. And I started singing at 3 years old. But instead of singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider and Row, Row Your Boat, I was singing Why Was I Born? So, why was I born? Why my mother's staging, right? So I knew more songs by the time I was 4, ballads that unbelievable. They would fill my childhood with songs. So I naturally assumed that I was going to be a great, famous singer, performer. But there was a little problem because everybody in my family loved to eat. And by the time I was 12, I weighed 195 pounds.
You, Barbara?
Little Barbara,
who
weighs 100 pounds.
Petite Barbara?
Yeah. And by the time I was 15 in high school, I was 200 pounds.
I don't believe it.
No, I could send you pictures about that one too. So I auditioned for the Playboy Club. See, now I'm getting to the point, in Chicago as a singer. But again, I was very big, very heavy. And so I decided, since I wanted to look like the bunnies, I would wear these high heels when I walk onto the wooden stage to sing. And of course, when I walked on the stage to sing, being so fat and wearing 2.5-inch heels, I fell and slid right across the floor and sang from the floor, "Forget your troubles, come on, get happy." They couldn't stop laughing. They hired me right away. I had no act. I was a singer. So my mother, God bless her, had a friend who had a friend in New York. His name was Philip Della Penna. I'm not sure if he's still with us, but he wrote acts. So there I was signed to the Playboy Club as a comedian. And I went to New York and I stayed at 17 years old at the Evangeline Girls Club on 13th Street. I don't recommend it to anyone if it's still in business. No. It was not for me. But anyway, I had this act written and I came out with a bass drum because it was the only instrument that I was in proportion to.
That
was wearing it. And it spun, and there was and Philip decided that there should be a trap door where I could throw out hot dogs. If it's a Jewish show, it would be kosher hot dogs. If it's or whatever, Polish sausage, I was ready for anything. So throwing out, and then I would turn the drum over, and I would play with these wooden drumsticks, bum bum. Bum, 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 bum. Then I'd look out in the audience and then I'd go, bum, 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 bum. And then I'd look at the audience and I'd say, "What's the matter? You never heard Feelings before?" Well, this was the act. The opener was, "I'm going to be a star," and comparing me to Judy Garland and Carol Channing. Needless to say, it was an awful act, okay? With the drum included. So while I was in New York, like around the 2nd or 3rd week of living at the Evangeline and having this act written for the Playboy Club.
And you were still heavy?
Enormous.
Okay.
I was walking on 62nd Street. I was on my way to that famous ice cream store, Serendipity. See, I like ice cream. And I saw this sign, Gus Shermer Theatrical Agency. So I walked in and I asked to see Gus Shermer, who just happened to be walking out, and said, "Who are you?" And I, of course, said, "I'm Barbara Minkus and I'm going to be a star." And he said, "Yeah, well, really, look at you." And I said, "Well, listen to me." And I sang Forget Your Troubles, Come On, Get Happy, and a little bit of Visi d'arte, because, you know, I was trained as an opera singer. So he gets all excited, this is a true story, and takes me over to the Plaza Hotel, where his friend Julius Monk was producing a cabaret show called Bits and Pieces.
Ah.
And Gus says, it's a true story, "Julius, you've got to hear this girl sing. She's your next Toady Fields." Now, I never knew who Toady Fields was. I mean, so I just sang, and I started, you know, VC Darter, perché, you know, perché, signora, you know, and Julius couldn't stop laughing. So he turns to me, and first he says to Gus, "Gus, we're doing it. What is your name, my dear Barbara? Minkus, Mankus, Pinkus?" And I said, "No, it's Minkus." And he said, "We're in. You're going to be in Bits and Pieces." So I got permission from the Playboy Club to postpone my opening with that awful act. And that's how at 18, I was under 18, I starred with 5 other people. It was kind of like a review, upstairs at the downstairs type of review, Second City type of review, musical review, and Julius Monk's Bits and Pieces. I did not know anyone in New York.
That's how it started.
And because in my family, we would eat all day and then we'd sit down and eat 3 meals a day. Also, you know, there was 3 meals and then we eat all day in between. I saw that people in New York were only eating 3 meals a day. So I just decided to try it. And the weight just fell off of me. And I lost, in 10 months of doing Julius Monk's show, I lost 85 pounds. And guess what? I was fired. Because Julius only wanted a chubby cherub. So that was the beginning. But I was able to postpone that Playboy Club for many, many years.
And did you ever go back to that weight, or that was it?
No.
So it wasn't.
I was a compulsive overeater, but and I had a lifetime of struggling with, you know, weight issues. I don't anymore. I mean, but I did. I joined Overeaters Anonymous at the same time joining Weight Watchers, and you know, I was trying everything I could to watch my weight. But it was a problem because I never knew any different than eating all the time. And
well,
now I don't eat all the time because there's certain foods I don't eat. That's real simple, including ice cream.
you sent me a little, now that we're all, you know, busy with Zoom because, you know, we're sitting at home, and when we look at our schedule, tomorrow looks exactly like yesterday. And God willing, this eventually will be over.
Yes.
So you sent me a little clip that I loved, reminiscing about a show that I remember you from, and that's The Education of Hyman Kaplan.
Yeah.
But that wasn't your first show in New York, was it?
Well, after Julius Monk, after I was fired, I did the Danny Kaye show.
Ah, hold on there. Just a minute. I have a surprise for you.
Okay.
I tried to get it downloaded, but they wouldn't allow me to. So I'm going to just do something now and see if you can hear it, okay?
Yeah.
The little girl who played the part of Rhoda in that last sketch is a very talented young lady named Barbara Minkus. And I'd like you to hear her sing now, when she really means it.
Oh, that's nice.
Gentlemen, Barbara Minkus.
That's Danny Kaye. Can you hear this, Barbara?
I can, thank you. Well, let's see.
The Danny Kaye Show.
Yeah. I was signed for 10 shows.
Once upon a time, a boy with blue hair, his little eyes, put his hand in mine and said he loved me so.
You don't have to hear the whole thing. That was so sweet of you, though.
That was once upon a time, very long ago.
That was once upon a time. How long ago was that?
I think it was 1966. I was 1966. The producer had seen me on the at Julius Monk's and thought, his name was Robert Shear, and he thought that I would be a great love interest for Danny. He played this kind of nerdy guy named Jerome,
Right.
and he wanted, the producer wanted me to be Rhoda Crandallman, and it would be a running love, I would do a running gag with Harvey Korman and all, Tim Conway, these incredible Joyce Van Patten. What comedic actors and actresses. It was just a dream come true. And I saved up money, and I had this gorgeous gown made, and I flew to California, and Robert Shear picked me up and took me right over to the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. I had a suite. It was great. And the next day was the first rehearsal, and Danny Kaye was playing catch with his friend Sandy Koufax, the baseball player, and I didn't know that he didn't know about me. And Robert Shear said, "Danny, I want you to meet Barbara Minkus. Oh, wait till you hear her sing, and she is so funny too. Barbara's going to play Rhoda Crandallman. Danny, this is Barbara." And so Danny turns and looks at me and goes, "Get rid of her." And I'm standing there in my heart. I mean, Danny Kaye, I'm sure you idolized him because we all did.
I'll tell you right away about Danny as well.
Okay, and my heart.
I know where you're going.
My heart dropped. There's a happy ending. I'll tell you the happy ending. And the producer felt very badly, and he said, "Barbara, honey, just go to your dressing room. Everything's gonna work out." I stayed in that dressing room for 6 days. I never left the dressing room, and I never rehearsed with Danny Kaye. I moved 4 times. I moved from the Beverly Wilshire. Finally, I landed at the Farmer's Daughter, which is across the street from CBS Television City. And then after that, I moved to my Aunt Fanny's because I needed to be around people I loved and who loved me. It was very sad for me. So I didn't wear a gown. The producer had me singing in an attic, which was fine. The outfit cost me $9 for a sweatshirt from Thrifty's. That was the drugstore, Thrifty drugstore. But I was really heartbroken because I loved Danny Kaye and I had no idea what was going on. After the show, the producer came to see me and he said, "We're buying out your contract." No reason. "You were wonderful, Barbara, but we're buying out your contract." Well, so I came back to New York, and my friend Clark Gessner was doing a record album of songs written for Charlie Brown, about Your Good Man Charlie Brown, for Decca Records. And he asked me if I would be Lucy on the record. So I came back to do something really wonderful, this You're a Good Man Charlie Brown album. And I'm getting back to Danny Kaye in a minute. I told my Clark that he should put it together as a Broadway show, off-Broadway show. I told you I do this all the time. Networking. And I said, I know the perfect guy to play Charlie Brown. I just did a show with him and he's great. And he said, "Well, what's his name?" I said, Gary Berghoff. And the rest is history.
Mm.
So I was Lucy in the original Charlie Brown. And while we were having rehearsals, the producer of Funny Girl came to see the show with Milton Katselas. He was a very wonderful director.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we're doing a touring company of Funny Girl opening in Florida, and Charlotte Ray is playing Fanny Bryce's mother, and you guys would be so wonderful together, but we have to know if you will do it tonight. I gave my notice for Charlie Brown, even though I helped put it together and made nothing by doing that. And my understudy, to this day, when I see her, her name is Riva Rose, just was thrilled. She had a whole wonderful career. And I went to do a touring company with Funny Girl. And when I came back, I had an audition I did Funny Girl at the Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey, and then I auditioned for Hyman Kaplan. And I always tell the story that the accompanist for my audition was wonderful. He was this guy named Barry Manilow. Boy, did he play Once Upon a Time great. So that was the beginning of my career.
Yeah.
And the end of the story with Danny Kaye, because
Okay. Go ahead.
killed, I don't want to say it killed me, but it really bothered me because I never, I love to have answers. I don't necessarily need to do something, but I need to have an answer. What happened? Why didn't it happen?
Closure.
And I never had that answer.
Right.
Well, last year there was a reunion. I was on a television show called Love American Style. I wasn't on the show. There were little blackouts, vignettes of six of us did the little blackouts between the bigger stories. And I was one of the 6 people. And I never really knew much more about the show other than 2 weeks a year for 2 times a year for 2 weeks, we would film the blackouts. So last year there was a 50th 50th anniversary of Love American Style at Paramount, and I was invited. And I went to the party, and I never really said anything about the Danny Kaye show ever, but I invited all the writers to come and see the one-woman show that I had written called 18 Minutes of Fame. And I invited them all to come and see the show last year.
Which was wonderful, by the way.
Thank you.
We
Thank
saw
you.
two iterations of it.
Yeah, the original show was called 18 Minutes of Fame. No, was I'm Not Famous. And then I decided I was going to tell a little more about the Danny Kaye story. I really didn't tell that much about the Danny Kaye show, the first rendition. And then I decided to be a little more brave and tell more stories that were more honest about my life. So I invited everybody, the producer of Love American, so all the Ruta Lee and all the actors that were at the party, and a lot of them came the following week to the Jewish Women's Theater, where I think you saw the show, or the Pico, I'm not sure where you saw.
Right.
And I told the Danny Kaye story. And I said on stage, I never knew, to this day, I have no idea why Danny Kaye didn't like me, but I knew that I had to run, don't walk, back to New York. And after the show, the head writer of Love American Style, whose name is Ron Friedman, said, Barbara, I wrote a Crandallman, a Jerome sketch, and I know why you were fired. I said, oh my God. I said, please tell me. How many years later? He said that Danny fired people only 3 times in the entire 6 years of the series. You were one of the 3. And it was always the same reason. Robert Shear saw an act, fell in love with it, brought whoever it was to do the show, was signed for 10 episodes. Danny didn't like that Robert went over his head of choosing people, even though that may not have been the deal, you know, their deal. But all three of us, whoever those other three were, other two were fired. And I said to Ron Freeman, I can't tell you how much this means to me. I get a little verklempt because for years it just really bothered me. When I did the sketch with him, he was absolutely brilliant. I never had a rehearsal with him, but he was brilliant. And when he introduced me, and you heard the introduction, I never heard anyone introduce me the way he did. And so I had closure, and that was nice.
You know, I'm going to tell you a very brief story, true story. Uh, Obviously, he was one of my heroes, idols. I don't think there's been any entertainer with the talent and charm and
Brilliant.
chain that he had. And my mother and Danny in 1936 were partners in the Catskills for a summer at the President Hotel,
Oh.
where they used to put on plays and comedies. And my mother was, I think she was 17 or 18 years old. Danny was a little older. And they, from what I understood later, it was more than just partners on stage. Because in 1967 in Israel, after I was in the Six-Day War, I got a call from my unit in the Israeli Defense Forces, and my commander said, we have something for you to do. Danny Kaye is coming to Israel to entertain the soldiers and visit the wounded after the war, and we would like you to accompany him and introduce him, you know, do something,
Wow.
perform in advance. Well, when I heard that, it was just hard to believe. And indeed, he did come with his entourage, his manager, Herbie Bonus, and his longtime accompanist, Sammy Prager, whole entourage. And the first night we met and we performed. I actually have a picture of it in camouflage. We got him camouflage outfits. And it was the first night, it was the 4th of July, I remember, up in Ramallah, which had just been, you know, we just had finished the war. And it was for a huge gathering of Israeli soldiers. And Danny Kaye, obviously, the name was, you know, legendary. And I introduced him and I translated for him when he spoke to the Israeli soldiers. What I was kind of surprised at when we first met, and he looked at me, and he gave me the most curious look I'd ever seen. I was 22 years old at the time. And later I called my mother and I told her, Mom, you know, I met Danny Kaye and I performed with him, and he looked at me in a very strange way. And my mother said to me, darling, he could have been your father.
Oh my God.
That look I will always remember. But, you know,
Talk about getting the answer to a story.
yeah, but as great a talent as he was, I spent a month with him touring the army bases, the hospitals, and unfortunately, I learned, you know, I hate to talk negatively about someone who's passed away, but as great an artist as he was, and as great a joy to watch him, as a as a human being, he was a very sad human being, and not necessarily a kind person. Um, and something, you know, I was once interviewed for a biography of him, and I told a story that I heard Danny tell a story about going to Russia, to the Soviet Union, as a cultural exchange program. And he told a joke about meeting with 4 different diplomats, German, French, British, and Russian, before going to the Soviet Union. And then Danny would imitate all those accents. You know, he was great at that. And it was a wonderful story. And uh, I had a performance the next night at a nightclub in Jaffa, in Tel Aviv, and I invited him to come with his entourage, with his friends, to the performance. Well, Danny didn't show up. He wasn't feeling well, but his manager and his accompanist and his friends showed up. And in honor of Danny, I told the audience that I am traveling with Danny, the great Danny Kaye, and watching him and being inspired by him. And he told this wonderful story that I would like to now tell you in honor of Danny Kaye. And I told the story. The next morning, we arrived at his hotel to pick him up and to go to one of the hospitals. We got into the car, and this was after 2 weeks of having been with him and been friendly, etc. We got into the car. He never looked at me. He never spoke to me. It was like an ice cold wind that came into the car.
Wow.
For the entire day, we traveled around the country. We went to visit wounded soldiers in the hospitals, never spoke to me, never looked at me. And we finally came back in the evening, and he got out of the car, and I got out and I said, Danny, what happened? You've been ignoring me. Did I do something wrong? So he said, come up to my room. We went up to his hotel room. He closed the door and he said to me, never steal another artist's material. I said, what are you talking about?
You honored him.
I said, he said, you told my anecdote last night in one of your performances. That's the ultimate thing that an artist does not do, steal from someone else.
Yeah.
And I said, I did it to honor you, Danny.
Wow.
And he said, it doesn't matter. And I found out later that that was one of his main pet peeves, that people would steal material from one another. And I was a kid. And this is the great Danny Kaye.
I know. I'm sorry that you had that experience. I know, but you, as we've gotten older, you know, we've learned that not always it's what's inside, and a lot of times the performer doesn't match the inside person, and unfortunately, a brilliant performer, but not such a nice guy.
Well, he was a very unhappy person. His life, you know, living with Sylvia, they did not get along, but they had to live in the same house for years and years and years. He was a very sad and unhappy, the ultimate, you know, clown that laughs on stage and cries in person.
I'm
Tell
sorry,
me, my dear, I want to ask
good.
you. I want to ask you a couple of things.
Sure.
That I always ask my friends because, you know, it kind of something that I've always thought about. If I were to ask you for one person, one individual that inspired your life, who would it be?
I'm crying right now. I think that there's two, and it isn't my mother or father. Or as I said, I was so heavy, and I thought I started college at the University of Miami. I'm getting there, and immediately got mononucleosis at 18. I was enormous, and came back, and I was accepted at DePaul University. These are two people that helped me, I'm going to mention. And I had a voice teacher. Her name was Catherine Whitworth. Boy, she just gave from her heart and made me feel like I was beautiful. You know, I'd like to say that most heavy people have problems. They don't think they're pretty. It's true. But she made me feel like I was beautiful. And my self-esteem soared because she gave me so much love. Total love. And the second person was a therapist. Therapist. I came to California, and I was very young. I love Hyman Kaplan opened the night Martin Luther King was killed in 1968. I was very young, and I just couldn't stay in New York. My heart was broken because not that it was such a major national tragedy, just like what we're going through right now. It's something that we'll never forget. And we will never forget this time either. But then I was very young, and I just had to leave New York. So I came to California, and unfortunately or fortunately fell in love with my agent. We won't mention names. And his family didn't approve, and I couldn't talk. I literally couldn't talk. And Gary Berghoff, my friend, was a big star on MASH. And he said, Barbara, I have this wonderful little house on Fountain. Why don't you come and live in it? That's a gift I want to give you. I want to give you this house. I mean, he didn't own it, but it was just fantastic. There were little houses behind a big mansion on Fountain near La Cienega. Oh, it's gorgeous. And he said, I want you to have this house. And the producers of Curiosity Shop gave me a little dog named Curie. And for 1 year, I stayed in that house because my heart was broken and I couldn't talk. And my manager's secretary said, I have a wonderful therapist I'd like to recommend for you, Barbara. I can see you're hurting. And he changed my life. I listened to him. He never talked. It was analysis. And I don't recommend analysis, anybody, because the therapist never speaks. You just lie there and talk, free associate, they call it. But my God, I think he inspired me to be a better person, and he never talked to me. So it was a very learning experience. He made me go out and start dating, and I never wanted to do that. I was so heartbroken. And I did what he told me to do. And I met my husband.
It was Bashir.
It was Bashir.
You know,
and we'll be married 47 years. So, yeah.
You know,
so, strange things happen in strange ways, but it was a wonderful thing. So he was a wonderful, he really loved me, but he gave me so much, and yet he never talked to me. But I loved him because he really helped me find who Barbara Minkus really is, and that I will never forget that.
It's always fascinating to me when I ask my friends that question, because it ranges from everyone from, for example, my dear friend, may he rest in peace, Richard Crenna.
Yeah.
I interviewed Dick in Israel when he was shooting one of the Rambo movies. Mm-hmm. I asked him that question, and he said it was his mother who inspired him, because when he got his first audition in New York for some play or something, she gave him a nickel, and she said, this is for you to call me from a phone booth to tell me that you got the role. And he did.
That's great.
From that answer to, for example, I was very fortunate to interview Zubin Mehta in Israel. And he's actually up on our channel as well, one of the interviews I did with him back in 1990. And his answer was Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. Growing up as a young man, Gandhi's, who inspired the world with nonviolence, how to bring peace to this world. So it ranges from so many different answers, but it's a question that I love to ask because
I don't know if it's fair of me to ask you, but I would think with such a wonderful family that you came from, and the gift that they gave you of your inspiring you to continue with your incredible talent. You are probably the most gifted entertainer I know. You are just wonderful, Mike.
Thank
And
you.
so I would think it would be your family, your mom and dad.
Wow, that's interesting. You turned it around on me, and you're asking. Nobody's asked me that question. Ah, wow.
If I was a therapist, I'd answer.
Oh, oh, but I would probably say my father,
Yeah.
because God bless him. He was 48 when my sister and I were born, and so when I was growing up, it was more of a grandfatherly figure for me than for the average father. And he had come from Poland in 1923 as a star of the Yiddish theater in Europe.
Yeah.
Tomaszewski brought him over under contract to the United States, and he became an international, one of the leading stars of the Yiddish theater throughout the world. And I used to watch him as a child. I walked out on stage, same age that you started, the age of 3.
Yeah.
It was Christmas in Manhattan, and my father was performing a matinee at the National Theater on Second Avenue.
Wow.
And I was 3 years old, and our nanny brought me backstage, and his friends wanted to play a joke on him, so they put a beard on me and a high hat, and they said, "Go out to daddy," and I walked right out on stage.
And you never left.
And I never left. The rest is history. But he was such an inspiration because he was a kind man, and he was the most gifted and the most charming person I ever met. And I used to just adore him and watch him. And they say that we become our parents. And I have been very proud and honored when people who knew him and used to see him perform before the war in Europe and after the war, and they tell me that you remind me so much of your father. That's the greatest compliment to
Wow.
me.
Wow.
And also not just on stage, but as a mensch.
Yeah.
I believe the most important thing is to be honest, to be a decent, honest person. Honesty is all that we have to give, whether in person or on stage. And, that is the communication we have with an audience. And audiences pick that up right away.
I
If you're
want to,
honest, if you're honest in what you give them and what you perform,
but
they will accept it.
you are giving on stage and off stage, Mike. I have to tell you, because I maybe never did, what it meant to me that you helped me with my Yiddish for a show that I helped put together called Pecan Pie about Molly Pecan. And I still have your tapes of you coaching me because, my husband speaks fluent Yiddish. That would be the end of our marriage if I did ask him to help. Don't ever ask your husband or wife to, but you graciously brought me into your house and took that script and taped it for me the way it should sound. And I learned everything from your tape.
Thank you. Well,
And
Barbara,
I
we
can't tell you how much that meant to me.
well, it doesn't cost you anything to help someone else.
No.
That's it to me. It really is surprising because it doesn't always work, for me, the other way around, especially in our business. But if we can help someone else, then and they succeed, that's the greatest gift we can give, and it doesn't take anything away from you.
No,
Uh,
I took you on stage every night, every
uh,
day,
uh,
no
thank
matter where I did the show. So
you, my Doreen. Well, it has been such a joy just to chat with you because that's what the channel is all about. It's not an interview show. It's just friends, good friends getting together and schmoozing and talking. And
please, I'm gonna write this down. Please tell me again, and then you can tell everybody listening at the same time.
oh, it's just my on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Mike Burstyn and Friends. Very easy. And since you like to, what was it you said? You like to put people together, Barbara, right? So
I do.
share it, and this will be up in the next day or two, our little chat. And
Okay, thank you. But I need to ask you, is Burstyn, is it A, and then it's all one and A-N-D?
it's the, what do they call it, an ampersand?
Okay, yeah, it's that.
Yeah,
It's
that
yeah,
little
okay.
thing. But if you write and, it'll go there as well.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
on YouTube.
And it's a
Burstyn.
lowercase?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Just type in on YouTube, Mike Burstyn and friends.
Before we close, I want to tell you that I have just written a webinar. Did I tell you this?
Yes, please, let's talk about it.
Oh, I'm filming it, social distancing, everyone, on a Friday at my house. And it's about life. It's songs about life. And I felt that the best way I can express my feelings about what we're all going through, all of us, because we're all going through it, is through songs. And I'm so fortunate. I have a wonderful musical director, and I'm so fortunate that he had put this together with me, and the co-producer of my 18 Minutes of Fame show is going to film it, and I will get it to you. Who knows? But I hope it's going to be good. I have no idea. It's going to be from my heart, and it's songs about life as we are living it now. It's not negative, because I look at life half full rather than half empty. So it's a very positive.
Hi. Well, I'm so glad to be here tonight, and I'm so glad to be singing this song. It was written by Marvin Hamlish and Johnny Mercer, and for the movie Koch. And it was the first song Marvin Hamlish was nominated for an Academy Award. And, have I said enough ands? I think that they had the secret to life. You see, life is what you make it. If you can take it, it's worth a try. Smile, the world is sunny. Your Easter bunny. When even sad turns to funny. That's not easy. Fame may run to catch you, or look right at you and pass you by. Somewhere out there, love waits to see you through, 'cause life is what you make it, and what you make it is up to you. Fame may run to catch you, or look right at you and pass you by. Somewhere out there, love waits to see you through. 'Cause life is what you make it, and my friends, what you make it is up to you. It's up to you.
Last night, I decided that I wanted to accentuate the positive. It's a great song.
Right.
Written by Johnny Mercer and Harold Arland. And I think it would be really so good in the show. So it's going to add a few minutes. So it may be 23 minutes, you know, but it has a beginning, a middle, and end, and it has a little theme, and it's not preachy, even though accentuate the positive is a little preachy, but it's, I think it made me have so much fun putting it together. You know as well as I do, when you're not able to perform, any creative thing feels good. You know, it feels like you're on Broadway again, you know, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
the
listen.
unconscious doesn't know, it just knows that it loves to be creative.
Look, we are, you know, we are giving people, we are artists. And if we're not performing, you know, we need an audience. We don't exist for ourselves. And I always say, you know, if you're a shoemaker, you can sit at home, and if you can't go to work, and you can work on your shoes. If you're a watchmaker, you can work on your watch. But for us to perform at home is meaningless. We, you know,
Right.
we're not doing it for us. We're
Right.
doing it for others. And
Right.
you know, we have to, you know, get, you know, adjusted and acclimated to this new reality. And maybe, you know, as you say, the glass is half full. If we can do it and reach more people doing this than we
Yeah.
could have reached for years by filling up a 200 or 300 seat theater. So
Right.
this is wonderful, and I will put a link up
Thank you.
during our
Thank you.
chat
I
on my
appreciate it.
channel. I'll put up a link, and then people can go
And
and
I'm
enjoy.
sure that Mike Burstyn and Friends is your way right now of filling that place.
Exactly. I miss my friends. We can't get together. And this way people can also enjoy the wonderful rainbow of friends I have. Everybody
That's,
from,
that's my first song.
the rain, somewhere over the rainbow?
Yeah.
Oh,
I sang it when I was 12 years old in Chicago on the Morrisby Sax Amateur Hour, and I won third place. But it's a beautiful spandex watch. I'm going to show it. And of course, I put it on this morning and the band was broken. So I'm going to see if I can get it fixed.
well, thank
Had
you,
it for a long time.
my dear neighbor. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much
honey.
for joining me. I'll see you if we take a walk later on. We'll wave at each other.
Okay.
And I want to thank all you friends who have been watching us. And remember, my motto, Barbara, is Carpe Diem, seize the day. I always leave you with that. So, folks,
And mine is life is half full, not half empty. So
uh,
we got two good ones.
very similar, very
Yeah.
similar.
That's great. Give my love to your wife. Enjoy your walk with your son and his
Thank you.
grandchildren. Or it's about family, the ones that we can see, that it means so much. You know, we are with our two grandchildren a lot because they live so close, and we make sure that we stay safe because it's a joy, isn't it?
And it's about life. It's about life.
That's what my show is.
Right. And one of my favorite songs is by my friend Artie Butler, called
I'm singing it. It's my last song.
Here's to Life.
It's
Absolutely.
my last song. Here's to life.
So we know what your first song is and what your last song
But
is.
tune in, everybody.
Now what to keep, what's in between the bookends.
Thanks. So much fun. Thank you, Mike. I've
pleasure.
enjoyed myself so much.
Thank you, sweetheart.
So much.
And
Bye-bye.
thank you for joining us. And see you again next time.
I'll see you on the streets.
Shalom, everybody. Bye.